Thank you, Ginny. Hi, I'm Isa.
And I'm Arzu.
And we are going to present the color-related study, specifically on the rainbow color scheme. And Arzu now will give a sense of our motivation and the context of our study.
Thank you, Isa. So we are chasing rainbows just for finding the pot of gold or chasing them away from scientific publications. Isa kindly invited me to this study after actually she has done the most of the work, but I have a strong interest in color research as well. So let's begin. So we have, Isa, maybe the next slide, please. Right, so colors, I mean, it is an all topic, right? So we have in cartography, we have been studying this forever, and it's an important variable. We map information to color all the time. It needs to be discriminable. It needs to be color deficiency safe. So just a bunch of tools that are developed mainly by cartographers and actually adopted by others in the visualization community is an evidence that we have a need for further research in color and better understanding of color. Among these color scales, maybe we can move to the next slide, please. Among these color scales, one is that pops up in any visualization conference or event you go. There's this half-known phenomenon as rainbow hate. People say, don't use the rainbows are bad. But most of us in this audience probably are quite well aware that they are bad. They are beautiful. They are very nice to look at, but and they are natural. They are in what is in our visible spectrum, and they represent hues that we can name. They are magical in many ways, but many of us also understand that they are not really great. So we can maybe move to the next slide, please. And so why they are not great is because if you look at a color scheme, it needs to fulfill a number of criteria. These are by Lekowitz and Herman. For example, a good color scheme must be able to represent order. And if it can't represent order, it's a problem. It should be perceptually uniform, and it should have a representative color difference. So subtle color differences should be viewable. And of course, it shouldn't ideally create false boundaries due to visual illusions or other grouping of colors that are actually out of control. Does rainbow fulfill these conditions? It doesn't look like it, right? So if you look at the literature, there's a lot of studies about rainbow. It doesn't really represent order, and this is actually one of the weakest things about rainbow color scheme. It is not perceptually uniform. It cannot really do very well with the distance, color distance, and it does actually lead to false boundaries. And besides these four, it also actually doesn't facilitate vision for all. So if people have color vision deficiencies in standard traditional rainbow, there's actually some difficulties to distinguish patterns. So unfortunately, you see the disappointed dash there. Unfortunately, this seems to be bad news for rainbow. Of course, again, this has been done. This kind of questions have been asked, and other people have worked on this question for a long time, since 60s. You can see that the publications are actually kind of getting more of them towards the end of 2020. This is not obviously the entire curriculum. These are the stuff that we selected that included user experiments. So we can maybe move to the next slide, please. Okay, so if you look at the studies that examine rainbow colors, since 60s, we know that things aren't working too well if you show things using a rainbow color scheme. And here we color coded it. Hopefully it's safe for color vision problems. So we have the red-green colors. Red are when the rainbow doesn't seem to look very good. So in the user experiments, it looks like rainbow doesn't deliver, it doesn't facilitate. And the green seems like things are actually okay. Rainbow can be competitive to a sequential color scheme, or it could be competitive to maybe a grayscale color scheme. So we can maybe check the next one to see why, in which tasks these greens and reds occur more. So it looks like if you focus on the bottom line, if you see from the reading details, so all of these, you see most of them seem green. So if somebody has to imagine a corruplet map, if somebody has to check particular region, match it to the legend and say that, okay, this is the value, that seems to be okay. In majority of the studies, it looks like rainbow can facilitate that, which intuitively will make more sense when you think about nameable colors, red matching a particular shade of red. And then if you think of patterns or outlier detections, it looks worse. There's one exception to that in a more recent study. We don't have time to really turn this into a lecture, so I'm going to go over that, but happy for you to check. Of course, the last line is the order, which is where you have the boundary issues and ordering of the color. So this seems to be all red. So rainbow colors don't facilitate these tasks very well. So we broke it down by task, and then we looked at, if rainbow facilitates well or not. So we can now move on to the next slide. So if we understand that, the rainbow color is not ideal in visualization, there's some issues, but we wanted to do another study, which I will tell you in a minute. But before we even spend a lot of time and effort, we asked ourselves, is it still relevant? If people knew this since 60s, didn't everybody learn that rainbow colors are troubling and that maybe they shouldn't be using in these color schemes? So do people still use rainbow color in visualizations? And I pass the microphone to Isa.
Thank you. So the study on the prevalence of rainbow in publication has been done actually. So starting from Cynthia Brewer, that she checked in 1997, several journals of white outreach, and she concluded that spectral scheme as standard choices. So it means that the rainbow did appear often in scientific publication. 10 years later, also analysis of visualization conference proceedings gave us a quantitative results, and over half of the papers used rainbow schemes, so great share. And even when excluding medical images, the share is even higher, so 61%. So the next 10 years passed, no one checked how it looks like today, so we decided to visualization. For our query, we selected two interdisciplinary fields with quite large audiences, and for each discipline, we selected two journals of white outreach. So we've got planetary science and remote sensing fields. In total, we analyzed over 300 papers published in late 2019 and early 2020. And that was spread evenly across discipline, across journals. So starting from the beginning, let's look at the Icarus and the cover, and it doesn't disappoint us, because on the cover, in fact, we've got rainbow, and this is the really popular choice for the Icarus covers. But not only Icarus, not only cover. When we looked inside, we saw many images that use rainbows for maps, diagrams, graphs of every shape, every kind of topic applied, and so on. So to give a quantitative sense, so for almost in each journal, we analyzed half or even more papers used rainbow schemes. So it is really, in fact, prevalence that we see. Comparing to the analysis that was conducted 10 years ago, we can see that the share is not getting lower, that the awareness is not change anything. In some cases, we've got even higher shares, like in JRR planets. So now we know that this is the prevalent, but we wanted also to check if it's still harmful. So we conducted empirical studies to try to add a piece of this long-standing efforts of providing empirical proof how rainbow works. So we compared rainbow scheme with recommended sequential scheme taken from Color Brewer online tools. We analyzed several performance metrics, namely response accuracy, response time, and subjective rating of difficulty. We tested across 11 tasks of different kinds that Arzu mentioned, so reading details, so getting a sense of pattern as well as recall tasks, and we involved two map types, choropleth map and isoline maps. And we collected data from high school students. We visited 22 schools across Poland and collected data from over 500 participants. And our results show that the answer, if rainbow works for visualization, should sound "it depends." And again, it depends on the task type. So again, reading details is quite nicely supported by a rainbow scheme, but other kind of tasks we call pattern outlier detection, we can see that it is not so clear supportance provided by rainbow. More details of our results will be hopefully available soon, because we are now at the stage of minor revision of our paper. So we keeping our fingers crossed for releasing it soon. So just as a takeaway message, we wanted to say that rainbow scheme is a research that is related to rainbow is still highly relevant, because it is still often choice when designing visualization for quantitative data. They are beautiful, so we know it and we believe in it, and they are okay, but for some of the tasks, and whereas some others are really impaired in terms of user performance when using rainbows. So for now, we can just suggest to avoid this choice, color choice. And if you really want to use rainbow scheme, just be informed about the consequences and keep in mind the task type that is going to be conducted using the rainbow. And here are the sense of the online tools Arzu mentioned and show at the beginning, as well as the references and supportance. Thank you.
Have any specific questions in the Slack, but there are a lot of rainbow fans over there that have lots of comments, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun chatting with the group over there. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We also love rainbows for multiple reasons, but maybe not for quantitative data visualization.
Fantastic.